jungle last season, landing on top of the toughest division in the NFL. They won the North with a 15-2 record, just one game better than the Vikings, and it looks like they'll be in another dogfight this year if they want to repeat as division champs. Let's take a look, though, at the odds to win the NFC North, courtesy of ESPN Sportsbook. This is the tightest division based on the odds, as Detroit are favored to three-peat at plus 135, followed by the Packers at 260, plus 260, and the Vikings at plus 360, and Bears at plus 450. Sam, we're going to come to you. Remote, we don't want you to be left out of this conversation. Will the NFC North be the most competitive division again this season?
Oh, absolutely, and the reason why is a fewfold. Number one, you look at the Detroit Lions. They were the best team in the division last year. Well, they lost some talent, if you will. They lost their head coach. Well, their head coach, who was arguably the most sought-after coach in all of football, is now of the worst team. Excuse me, the offensive coordinator is now the head coach of the worst team in that division. It's now Ben Johnson, who's calling all these plays, drawing up plays for one of the best offenses, is now helping one of the worst teams in the division. The team you see on your screen, right? You're seeing the Detroit Lions. You're also seeing teams like the Minnesota Vikings. 14-team win season. I understand they have a new quarterback, but I think that Detroit's going to be dominant again. But Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago's getting better, right? First-round pick. The defense is better. The interior, the offensive line has improved. And oh, by the way, the Green Bay Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round, and they got another one in the third. So I think it's the most deep division in all of the NFL. And even though Detroit lost some talent when it came to their offensive and defensive coordinators, I think that Ben Johnson's going to help improve the Chicago Bears.
So I would say this, when you do look at the NFC North, there are two things that stand out to me. And it's the question marks, right? When it comes to these teams, it's the Minnesota Vikings, and can J.J. McCarthy get it done? Now, some people may say yes, some people still have a question mark beside it. It's also Caleb Williams. Can Caleb Williams be better than he was in 2024? So those are the two question marks. The best division of football that I believe is the AFC West, because there's no question about the quarterbacking in that division. When you look at Geno Smith for the Raiders, you look at Patrick Mahomes, who's the standard in the National Football League, Bo Nix being able to grasp a Sean Payton's offense in his rookie season and lead them to the playoffs. You look at Justin Herbert from an individual standpoint, he's been phenomenal. Just has to be better in the postseason when it comes to the playoffs. But then I also look at the AFC West and I say to myself, my gosh, you have 3 Super Bowl winning head coaches, and then the other one in Jim Harbaugh, who won a national championship at the University of Michigan and has been to a Super Bowl as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. I believe every team in that division has gotten better, from the Denver Broncos to the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Raiders are going to be the worst team in that division, but the Raiders now have a quarterback. The Raiders now have a running back. They were last in rushing last season, and the culture, because Pete Carroll and what he has been able to do his entire career coaching, he is a culture changer. So that's why I'm going with the AFC West.
I'm going to go with the NFC North, and there's a very specific reason for it. I think that unlike the AFC West, anybody in the NFC North can win the division, which I don't think is true of the Raiders in the AFC West, for instance. I think it's probably this year 2-horse race in the AFC West, when the Chiefs obviously should be the favorites, and then the Denver Broncos. With the NFC North, I'm seeing credibility everywhere. I'm seeing, I don't want to overstate this, but it looks like the Bears may have solved the problem for the first time in, 40 years? When you talk about the fact they professionalize their offensive line, they get Drew Dahlman, they get Joe Tooney, they get the best head coaching candidate on the market in Ben Johnson. This looks to be the makings of a 9-win, 10-win team at least. And then going forward, if Caleb Williams is actually solved as a quarterback prospect, it could be even more special going forward. I'm picking the Packers to win this division. Again, professionalizing. I was looking at some of the stats yesterday, and I could not believe how many mistakes they made last year in Green Bay. Jordan Love, I feel, was hurt last year for most of the time, but they had 3 receivers who were in the top 5 in the league in drop percentage. That's unbelievable. They will get better with Matthew Golden here. It's going to be an awesome division. Packers winning.
All right, Sam.
And to your point with the Green Bay, to the Green Bay Packers, they were the 3rd best team in the division last year. And the Green Bay is going to win a minimum 10 games. Like, that's a guarantee pretty much, especially Jordan Love being healthy with the receivers that they drafted. So the 3rd best team in your division last year is going to improve. We talked about Minnesota potentially regressing because we don't know what's going to be a quarterback. But we also have the Minnesota Vikings. They may not know a quarterback, but they know who they have at head coach, Kevin O'Connell, who was the AP Coach of the Year. And so you have a Coach of the Year, a.k.a. quarterback whisperer, who's probably going to whisper into his quarterbacks here, J.J. McCarthy, to help the Minnesota Vikings stay above the water. 49ers. And then lastly, talking about the Chicago Bears, I understand that there are question marks at quarterback, but defensively they've improved. The offensive line has improved. And so for me, I think that when it comes to competitiveness, like which division is most competitive, I think it's got to be the NFC North.
So I would say this also, when you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, there weren't a lot of people that thought they were going to make the playoffs last year. Nope. There weren't a lot of people that thought the Denver Broncos was going to make it. The Chargers made the playoffs with Lad McConkey being the only receiver that was competent to make the plays in the receiver room. Now, they've only gotten better. They said, you know what, we're going to go get an offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get Najee Harris. We'll draft a Marion Hampton. So that's why I'm rocking with the AFC West.
Okay, well, we will soon find out as the NFL season is rapidly approaching. But first, we got
the team and our analysts are going to answer. Play along at home. We start in Detroit, who over the last 3 seasons with Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator led the NFL in points per game. Last year, they scored 33 points per game, making it the first time the Lions led the NFL in scoring since 54. D-Wood, can the Lions win despite losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? Can they still take that division down?
They can, but there's been a big growing drain in Detroit. Both coordinators, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, no longer there. On top of that, key assistant coaches aren't there. We know, listen, I always talk about coaching matters more in football than any other sport. And when you take away all of those coaches, it's going to have some type of cumulative effect. I think the big question with Detroit, how is Jared Goff going to respond with Ben Johnson gone? Like, he's been terrific in Detroit. But the last time we saw Jared Goff, he was committing 5 turnovers in a divisional game against the Washington Commanders. How will he bounce back from that?
Fascinating. In Chicago, year 1 for Caleb Williams did not go as planned. It wasn't all his fault. The Williams averaged 5.1 yards per dropback. That's the worst in the NFL. And he was also sacked 68 times. Guys, that is 16 more times than any other quarterback in football. Harry Douglas, is it too soon to say playoffs or bust for Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I'm not going with the bust part because he is going into his second season. What the Chicago Bears have done is said, Caleb, you don't have an excuse anymore. They revamped the offensive line. Ben Johnson's going to change the culture. He came from a place in the Detroit Lions where Dan Campbell was the head coach, but everything trickled down to the assistant coaches and the players. So that's what Ben Johnson is going to be able to provide. And situational football for Chicago last season was horrendous. So he's going to change that as well. Now, he can also protect Caleb Williams by running the football a lot more. That's exactly what they want to do, that run-play-action game. But for Caleb Williams, with everything that he has provided to him, why not you? Why can't you be the first 4,000-yard passer in Chicago Bears history?
GM Ryan Poles just given an extension. Neek, if we can bring you in here, earlier in the show, you blew everyone away with a bold prediction saying the Bears will be the NFC North winners of the division. Make the case for why we should believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are some challenges for the other teams in the division. Replacing key offensive line members in the center of that Detroit Lions offensive line, replacing the coaches over there, replacing the quarterback in Minnesota. I think the Packers are in good position to be competitive and win that division. But I also think the Bears, they have made replacements also, but they've made definite upgrades in all of those issues. So they have failed some of their players, including Caleb Williams, in the past with some of the decisions that they made as far as who was going to lead the team and how they were going to protect him. Those things are gone. This defense is still super talented and going to be well coached.
Cho lòng mình sẽ lật sang phần đằng sau. Các bạn cùng xoay góc hai bên góc này của nó vào phần